just finished Gimel Tammuz, and
Yes.
today is the 5th of Tammuz. And I've been studying a mamar of the Rebbe, and it talks about serving Hashem, your Lord, your God, and developing the love and awe, the fear of Hashem, and that it could be said that the fear of Hashem might be very easy to experience and develop, while the more toil and work, like leather, preparing a leather or a cowhide or animal hide for tefillin or Torah scroll requires the work and the toil to convert it from a leather to something that can be used in the Torah scroll. Similar to the love of Hashem is something that has to be developed and worked on.
It's a very good point, because I feel that there's a huge distinction between the way we do tshuva when we're in exile and when we're in the time of Mashiach. It's a higher level tshuva. Chassidut talks about 2 levels of tshuva, and I think, like we spoke about in the Shavuos tape and the giving of the Torah, the lower level is through, I think, mostly fear, and the higher level is love. And it takes more for a person to reach that level, because it's easier when somebody tells you what you should or you shouldn't do. But when you autonomously choose to do something on your own accord, and that's coming from a feeling that's born in your heart called love, like it says to love Hashem with all your heart, might, and soul, that's a whole other realm.
And it's almost like when you're about tshuva, when you talk about tshuva, it's like returning to your essence, your childlike innocence essence. You know, when you come into this world as a child, you're innocent. You haven't had the experience of darkness or things in the world that might change you, your ideas about the world. But when you come into this place and you hear about things, you experience things that might taint you or that might change your consciousness. Return to Teshuva means like a return to that innocence, that untainted, that childlike purity, and return to Hashem, return to your inner oneness and self and that purity. And it's almost like with the Baal Tshuva, for me, for so many years, I didn't know Torah and mitzvahs and all this, the right path. I was on a path of a lot of dark things, and now that I know the right way to do it, it's almost like it's the path is much easier now. My life is much better now, knowing this. And
when you say right way, I think that everything that you did in your life is part of the journey to return, to your true self. So I wouldn't call it right way, wrong way. And I think also we mustn't think that it's just about performing or studying something in the Torah or taking a siddur and, okay, I daven shachos, I did it. I think we need to develop a connection to the intention behind what we're doing.
The kavana.
There's too much disconnect. And that's like between the nishama and the guf, when there's a lack of intention. So when it talks about giving birth to the feeling of fear, the feeling of love, it's a very powerful thing, because ultimately that's the purpose of doing the Torah and the mitzvahs, because everything in creation is created by the vibration of your feeling that you're feeling. That feeling is creating everything in existence. So I think we need to start, not just focusing on, it's a way of life, but it's about that feeling that you get. And Baal Tshuvas are full of feeling, which is such a gift for those who've been from birth, who don't, they may know more and it may come more natural to them, but I don't know if they, have that feeling of excitement inside them, and there's what to gain from being around a Baal Tshuva, because they can renew your understanding and feeling for the mitzvah that you're performing. Um,
Like the purpose behind the mitzvahs and the not just doing it ritually, but the self refinement and the character refinement, character trait refinement, change reflection on your midos that you can change your midos and your character traits, and that that through the mitzvahs and to the studying Torah, that you're able to reflect and have refinement and the serving Hashem, like the prayer is helps you develop the love of Hashem, the coming closeness to Hashem, the feeling that you're connecting with Him, and Hashem is within us, so it's connecting to your higher self and like meditating on things in prayer and gaining more understanding and just being at one piece with yourself and
even if you take one sentence out of your whole davening and allow yourself to kind of focus on the words and kind of feel what do they mean to you and how does it make you feel, how does it apply to your day. As you go through davenings, kind of pay attention to the words and see what speaks out to you, so that you have a more meaningful davening. It's more enriched.
But it's not actually keeping up with the minyan and a race to go through Shacharis, but reflecting on even saying a smaller amount of prayer service and reflecting deeply on what you're saying and connecting to Hashem and communicating with Hashem and not looking at your cell phone or getting distracted.
I think, though, I'd like to take a little bit of a look in the first person who did Teshuva. Technically it's Adam Arishon, right? But the one, like, after several generations where there was a falling, that the Rebbe talks in a discourse called Basi Lagani, right? He talks about how Avram Avinu was the first one who began to draw down the Shekhinah, which is, describing God in the feminine, which is a level of consciousness and awareness of the oneness of God. And the words that God told Abraham was Lech Lecha. I think Lech Lecha denotes doing tshuva.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it was a geula for Avraham Avinu. It was his redemption because
away from your land.
He was going away from the distractions of everything that he thought he is and everything that he thought he wants, and he was aligning himself with his true self, his true.
Not the veils and the exterior. Not
the exteriors, and you could see that in the language of the words Lech Lecha. So one definition of that I can give to the word Teshuva, to return, is when we look at Avraham Avinu and we see the words Lech Lecha, go to you. So it's, and Lech Lecha me'artzecha, from your land, mimoladitcha, from your birthplace, umibeit avicha, and with everything that you learned from the land, everything that you were born with, mimoladitcha, and everything that you even learned from your father and mother. All that you're leaving. You would think, well, I follow my father's tradition. I'm doing what I was taught, what my teachers taught me, what society teaches me. But to truly return to the innocence, like Eric says,
right,
is to like go inward.
But you once told me that the Rebbe had this campaign of putting on tefillin on all Jews, and there was no discrimination. Even Jews who came out of nightclubs or certain places where there might have been sinning or negative darkness going on, put on tefillin when they're coming out of these places. And, we have our judgment, people might have said, well, how can you mix tefillin, such a holy object, with someone coming out of a nightclub or something? But the Rebbe recognized that every Jew should have the opportunity that to experience holiness and to turn it over, and that we shouldn't judge, and that we, even in today's Parsha, it says something about not our doing, but it's not in our job description to have Avas Yisrael and love all our fellow Jews, and even if it's not our job, we're not good at it, to show our love for other Jews and help turn them around, and I think Teshuva helps with that. That
I think what you're trying to say is that in the midst of paying attention to the needs of others, I don't limit description to fellow Jews, because I feel that, in my feeling, in these days especially, we don't know who's Jewish, who's not Jewish. It says in time of Mashiach, you're going to go according to the smell. And it actually says that all the nations of the world are going to be under that title, Yisrael, and maybe the Jews are going into the level of being a Kohen. So I'm not living in a place of where I see separation. One of the things that I've worked very hard on myself to do, my Lech Lecha, which is to get to the understanding of Hashem's oneness. To return, I feel, is to go, another description I'm going to say is go into that awareness of God is really one. There's Einoid Movado, there's nothing but God. So that means I can't separate anything to say anything is bad and something is good. And this was, big turmoil for me when I was going into the Geula, because everything in the way we did Torah and mitzvahs before was under the vibration of separation, and under the work of doing what they call elevating the sparks. Now we're going through the gates of unity, and it's a huge turnover for someone who was a Jew who is keeping Torah, an observant Orthodox Jew is in that awareness of this is pure, this is not pure, this is kosher, this is not kosher, this is holy, this is not holy. Now, I'm not telling you that to go chas v'shalom and God forbid and mix all those things. But what I'm saying is to let go of the judgment. Let go of the judgment, try to look at the world as being an observer, rather than, if you really want to help your fellow Jew, we have to not judge the situation, not judge where they're at, but rather just be there for them, without any judgment. That's part of doing tshuva, to see the oneness in everybody, to see the oneness in the world, and to understand that when you don't judge them and you're just there for them and you're not looking at them with we all have that voice, that monkey brain that likes to criticize. We may not even be aware of it, but you'll see somebody and you'll say hello nonchalantly, but in the back of your mind, you have all these thoughts going on, and that's not tshuva. That's separation. That creates separation. That's not seeing the oneness. Abraham saw God's oneness. You understand? And so it's not for me to understand why that person is or isn't doing what they're doing. It's not bad. It's not good. It's who they are. It's what their neshama came here to do. So you're there to support them, not to judge them. So if you got that monkey brain going on, when I'm talking about that subconscious blah, 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 just, say, chill. It's okay. I don't understand everything. Hashem, this is Hashem's world. And I'm lucky to be in it, and I'm here to help, not pass judgment.
Like,
So
and also, we were learning in the yeshiva, like there's two types of missed opportunities. Like you have a positive mitzvah to say the Shema uh, or say Shacharis that day, and if you didn't say Shacharis that day, you've missed that opportunity, and you can never regain that opportunity in the future. You've missed that opportunity, and the other thing is to do a vera, to sin, like to mix milk and meat or whatever a vera. And some of them you can be forgiven immediately if you do teshuva immediately, or some of them you have to wait all the way to Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur to do teshuva, and then you have to wait a whole year to get forgiven. But I don't think we should look at it that way, like separate, this sin is worse than that sin, or this missed opportunity, that missed opportunity.
how do you understand that? Because for me,
like if you do a sin right at the day after Yom Kippur, you have to wait a whole year to do next Yom Kippur to be forgiven for that sin.
I don't know what you all think about. For those of you who are in Mashiach consciousness, we understand that that's a lower vibration of thinking, the idea of sin, something that we created because it was the only way we knew how to relate or have a relationship with God, so to speak, with Hashem. The idea that we did something wrong. So how does that go with that everything is divine providence? Again, it's not that, not to put down Christianity, but it kind of for me, it's kind of strange. Oh, I'm going to go and confess. And then the mafia guy goes behind the curtain, confesses his sins, and then he goes and shoots another 10 guys. No, doesn't work. The idea is that spirit of folly overtook me. And I don't know what I was thinking, but it's like I wasn't myself, and I feel strange about it. And now for some reason, I was entwined in that environment and that situation, and now I'm doing tshuva, meaning I'm going to a higher place. I'm going to a higher vibration, and I have affirmations that I'm going to because I'm choosing. Here's the key word. Lower level tshuva is connected with the obligation, and higher level tshuva is connected with choice. It's even like, I was looking at the ketuvah last night. I have a passion now to kind of bring the ketuvah to a whole new level. That's a whole project in itself. I'm going to have to, really sit down with some people, I guess Rabbanim, and talk to them about it, because I really feel that the ketuvah, I don't know how you all feel about it. I feel the ketuvah is so outdated. And it's based on a different type of world that we once lived in. And something has to be changed in the way, I understand that it was originally made to protect women because, it was a male dominant world, to protect their rights, to give responsibility. But it talks about the man obligating himself to the woman. So I don't know if I've said this before, but the relationship between a husband and wife is the relationship that is between God and his creation and his people especially. So we don't want to feel obligated. I don't know about you, but if I ask my husband, please buy me flowers, and he brings me flowers, it's not as special as he comes home and he brings me flowers without even me asking. Coming because he chose to buy it. It means so much more when somebody gives me something because they chose to do it, rather than I need you to go do so-and-so. So I think higher level tshuva denotes I'm not doing it because I'm obligated to do it. I'm doing it because I'm choosing to do it.
And for me, talking about that, sometimes you don't go out purposely to sin, but or do something wrong, but
or do something that's against your nature.
Something
something that's not in line with your truth and who you truly are. You're doing something that's strange to you.
But if you did something and you can't change the past, but you can use it as a springboard, as like a something to turn it over and to become even more observant and more committed and devoted.
You actually can change the past, but that's a
right. You can't change the past. That's a
whole other subject. I'm not going to get into now.
But use it as a springboard to be even more devoted and to increase your service and love of Hashem. That we're given a second opportunity, even though we've supposedly made a mistake. It's hashkata pratis, and nothing's really a sin, and that use that as a motivating factor to return and to be even more devoted and more committed.
I know that for me, when I was in a time of my life after I went through my first divorce, and I can say I felt I was in a very vulnerable position, and as much as I had tremendous influence from my mother was very tznius and a very, very high moral person. And just in her being, I'm so, I can feel that inside me. And, but with all that withstanding, it was very, very difficult to stay in my truth, in what I felt feels right for me. And not that I'm confessing of anything really, who knows what, but let's just say, and looking for a husband, I would have wanted to be more shomer negia. I would have wanted to, do things in a more healthy way, and I wasn't, and it backlashed. But now that I'm here and I have others who are going through things, and some of it is let's say a lot more interesting and different, and so I have at least what I went through to say to myself, well, Batya, remember how difficult it was for you. And it's not easy to withstand these kind of experiences, that when a person's in a life situation and you're not in their shoes, and thank God that you're not in their shoes, because if you're in their shoes, you don't know if you might be acting even worse than them, in their situation. And there's those who will say, oh, me, not me, I never would do such a thing. Well, don't tempt God to test you. Trust me. You don't want to get tested when you speak like that. It hits you. And I think that's what David HaMelech meant when he said, my sin stands before me. He didn't say it in a negative way, like my sin is constantly standing before me. And I don't know what to do. No, it's something that strengthened him. It made him more compassionate towards Jewish people. It humbled him. It was something that's of value, actually. So I don't look at it like a negative. I look at it as an experience that you've gone through that has made you stronger, that has made you more aware, that has made you more compassionate. You get what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And it's something that relates to today's Yom Yom. It said, like John F. Kennedy said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And this relates to the Yom Yom because a chassid came to the Alter Rebbe and was talking about his livelihood and how he lost his business, he lost his wealth, and he was worried about his financial situation. And the Rebbe said, you put that aside, put your financial worries aside, and focus on what your duty is to Hashem in this world. Why Hashem put you on this earth. You have a purpose. You have a reason for being here. Your mission on this earth. and focus on praying to Hashem and serving Hashem and doing Torah and mitzvahs and serving Hashem and praying to Hashem, and Hashem will take care of your needs, your physical needs, your material needs, if you just focus on that. And it's almost, I can relate that to someone who's a Baal Shuvah who has this darkness, seemingly dark place they came out of, and had to go through all this hardship, and that Hashem is illuminated the path. My path is so much easier now. Hashem has provided for me that anything else seems very easy and worthwhile and wonderful, and so much easier compared to when I was lost, when I was faltering, and Hashem will provide. And
keep in mind that when you say keeping Torah and mitzvahs, I like people to understand it on a much deeper level. The Torah, as we know it, right? The foundation of the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, and there's multiple stories in the 5 books of Moses, and those stories are constantly in existence because we're in a timeline that keeps folding up on itself again and coming around again. But we're now living in a time that we can shed a completely new light that was never in the world before, which means you can turn over the story completely. That's why I said you can change the past. So Torah, by definition, means lesson. It means a lesson. And we have been living and reliving these stories and lessons over and over again. Different lifetimes, different worlds that Hashem created prior to this world. But now is what they call the time of Mashiach. And Mashiach means that the stories are being redeemed, which means you're being redeemed. Now, living a life of Torah and mitzvahs means you live your lesson. Because when the Rebbe says a new Torah will emerge, mi'iti, which means from you, from me, each individual, man, woman, and child, every soul, every part of the soul has its lesson, that lesson is that person's truth. And being in alignment with that truth means you perform all the mitzvot on that level of truth, because all the mitzvot incorporate a common denominator called Ahavas Yisrael, which denotes being in God's oneness. Okay? So it's like just to look at the mitzvahs separately, I can appreciate that we can look at a mitzvah and see it as an individual concept and action that we're doing, but you're not going to get the beauty of it if you don't incorporate it in the big picture, in the bigger picture of what it represents in the big picture, which is to bring in the oneness of God. So if you there's too many of us who are just saying, I don't think it's enough today, light your Shabbos candles, the man puts his tefillin on, put on your mezuzahs, and I'm a good Jew. No, there's more to it. It's not enough. It's enough, but it's not enough, because it's enough for the person who hasn't reached any understanding of why they're doing it. But it's not enough if you've been doing it for a long time and you're not feeling anything anymore. Somehow you feel numb. Then you need to raise it to a higher level. You can't just continue doing something. Hashem doesn't want you to do something out of habit. So for someone who's not done it all their life and they're coming in with the wow. They're coming in with the love and the fear and the awe and everything. But for the person who's done it for most of their life and it's become a habit, you're going to have to take it up a notch. You can't just stand still. Serving God is not about standing still. You have to constantly move with the times, move
I think about
With the truth.
with Mashiach, we have to live in dynamic flux and a change, and adapting and changing every day, every moment, every minute is change, adapting and changing. And what I said about asking what you can do for your country. This country, the United States provides we could say provides everything for us. But that we have it very good here in this country, and very grateful for the United States that we can live and have all this opportunities and freedom and everything. And but the Rebbe talked about also the moment of silence for children in school. I don't know if you want to say something about that. How it's important to have children have a discussion with parents with their children to understand the importance and the meaning of Hashem and God in their lives, because in today's culture it's not talked about. It's not
I think we need a moment of silence in the Jewish schools as well. When my kids were growing up and I used to come to the classrooms, they were davening, and the one who used to get the prize was the one who davened the loudest. And I feel that it's not about davening the loudest, it's about self-reflection. And in the public schools, when they have moments of silence, they have now meditation and they have yoga for these children, which takes them into doing different poses and stretching, and there's silence. I think that's very healthy. I think we need it in the Jewish schools too. I don't think it's about who davens the loudest. I don't think it's about that, because there needs to be self-reflection. That's a very good point you're bringing up. Also, we have to understand that doing tshuva, like you said, it's from moment to moment, and it's the call of the hour. So it's like, I don't know, there's some stories about how great sages who would be studying Torah and somebody outside needs help, and they come to him and they ask him for help, and he's like, I'm too busy learning. And that's not...
Right, he was so busy learning, he didn't hear the baby's cry when he fell out of the crib.
Yeah.
Right.
You're missing the point then. Don't be such a big chassid that you're too important to go and
the baby's cry signified the crying of the other fellow Jews.
Teshuva is definitely being in tuned from moment to moment, to be aware of the oneness and of the need of the moment, and pay attention to the divine providence, the hashgacha pratis of what's in front of you, and engage in it and be in it, to see God behind the veil of every happening of what's happening. That is really doing tshuva, because not just walking around with the talis and the tefillin, and seeing how important you are because look at me. No, it's those small acts that you do quietly that nobody knows about, and you can feel that appreciation inside of you that you have now just tangibly felt God in the world. You tangibly felt this presence that's literally reflected outward from you in everyone and in everything. And there is nothing, that is real tshuva. That is walking with God, literally walking with Him.
Right. Your vibration goes out. If you're true to yourself and in your own presence, your vibration goes out to the world without even making any effort.
And sometimes it even represents the idea of desecrate. It says you can desecrate Shabbos in order to save a life.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's not about missing the forest for the trees. That I'm allowed and I'm not allowed. It's about paying attention to the call of the hour and really tuning in to what your truth is and what you feel is lining up with what Hashem wants. And if a person is just into that, that's why I said the higher level is love. If a person is just in that level of I'm allowed, I'm not allowed, then he's too afraid to do something that he's not allowed to do, even though that is necessary to help another person. But I'm not going to do it because I'm afraid to do it because I'm going to sin.
Right.
So that's you're missing I feel that person is missing the trees for the forest. I really feel that's not being tuned in. It's
I don't know if we told this story on a previous video, but I'm going to tell the story. We had a problem with our car, and we took it to one repair place, and they gave us an estimate that it has to you can't replace. You have to bring it to the dealership, and it's going to be a very expensive to fix it. And then we brought it to this other place, and it was just a little glitch. The computer in the car had to just be reset, and everything was fine. It was no big deal. So it's almost like you can equate it to ourselves that you might think, oh, this horrible thing is wrong, something's wrong, but really it just has to, a little simple thing has to be reset or changed, and reset button and the new download, and everything's fine, everything's working order. There was the brakes didn't have to be replaced, and the tires and all the rotors and everything didn't have to be replaced. We didn't have to have a replacement of the computer parts or anything. It just needed to be tinkered with, and the right person knew exactly how to do it. And so
it's a very good point.
It's that the repair job, it doesn't have to be that difficult or time consuming or expensive. It might be just a simple thing that we're overlooking, and the right mechanic can fix it.
Yeah, it's like we have to tune ourselves in to a higher vibrational frequency that's in the world. And again, it's a choice. It's like what the Rebbe said, what can I do to make you want Mashiach? And it's in your will, and you have to tune in. And then when you tune in, you get the assistance. And in that assistance, you find the world all of a sudden just opens up to you in a way that you never thought was quite possible, almost like the splitting of the Red Sea. It's quite a phenomenal experience. And that's Teshuva on a whole other level.
And it takes a lot of weight off your shoulders. You're not carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, and that you have to save the world, that somehow you have to go out and change the world or anything. That this consciousness is here, and it's easy. It's an easy path, and there's no more struggle. There's no more hard work or labor.
It's a struggle if you choose to be in a struggle, but it doesn't have to be.
Right.
And I say choose. It's not that easy, because you have over 3,000 years of paradigm of a subconscious program in your mind that tells you that it's supposed to be this way. It's supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be difficult. And all of a sudden you have this new shift in the world that's telling us it's as easy as this. Keheref ayin. The Rebbe uses the word keheref ayin, like in a blink of an eye. But it's there. You have to access it. And the energy is here. And like the Rebbe said, you have to put it into the corrective vessels. And the corrective vessels are your thought, speech, and action, but they're functioning on a level of there's no blame, there's no guilt, there's no judgment. Those feelings create a lower vibration, and the light cannot go into a place like that. So what happens, it becomes an affliction, because the person is not able to absorb such a infinite light. That infinite light doesn't have these words. It doesn't know from these words. God is simply God. He's unchanged. There's nothing takes away or from him at all, and we're all a part of him. So when you have that self-blame, that self-affliction, it's not going to be easy.
It's almost like you have to
But
be.
you got to know that lechatchila, to begin with, you're loved. To begin with, you're perfect. To begin with, there was nothing ever wrong with you. You came to the world, you came into a dark place, and you're meant to take off the veil. You're meant to, go beyond it. And
It's almost like to receive the light, you have to be an empty vessel. You have to be a receiving vessel to receive the light and to receive this consciousness. And
you got to leave everything behind, everything you thought.
And what blocks the vessel? What are the things that block the vessel, that block you from receiving the light, that have a vessel that's full, that impedes the light? Is it's said in the Mamar how material things or thinking about your own self-consciousness or material things block the light because you're too caught up with worldly concerns, and you have to be an open vessel to receive this light.
Well, being an open vessel to receive the light takes me back to that moment of silence. The moment of silence allows you to receive the light, because when your mind is filled with everyday mundane things that you have to do, the past, the future, what he said, what she said, you're not an open vessel. The open vessel is when you're able to silence your mind and you're able to tune into the now. And tuning into the now is not some kind of a spiritual concept that's out there, okay? Tuning into the now is part of God's name. If you look at the name Yud Hey /Vav Hey, Yud K Vav K, it's a Yud, and Yud in Hasidus represents bittul. It represents complete self-effacement, nullification, letting go of everything that's concerning you, letting go of all your concerns. You let go and you're bittul, you're humbled, you're not judging, all of that disappears. It's the Yud. And then following the Yud is Hoveh, Hey Vav Hey, which means now, to be in the Hoveh. So the Yud goes into the Hoveh. And I do exercise that I developed, that came to me. I don't know if I didn't develop it, it just came to me. A breathing pattern that I do using those 4 letters, to meditating on being in the now. And it's unbelievable the way it works, because no matter what, I could have an obsessive thought, an obsessive worry about something, and I'll do that breathing technique, and it's like it goes away. All the anxiety, all the fear, of everything just dissipates, and it higher your vibration. So,
and I also talked about like how the Torah was given, the whole complete Torah was given on Mount Sinai, everything. But some of it might be concealed. And the Torah Chadash Amit Teitze is that each one of us souls, each one of us person has a special part to play to reveal that hidden Torah that exists, that was given. Nothing's new, it's all there, but we have to speak it or write it to reveal it, to bring it out into consciousness. And that's why it's so amazing talking about this and making these videos of us. I get excited about speaking about this Torah Hadasha, this how Batya talked about coming up with this innovation of the Yud Hey Vav Hey, and that it came to her, that she's not taking credit for it, that she didn't invent it because everything was already there, but it just came to her, this Torah Hadasha, how it comes out. And
For
like
me, it's new.
I remember when we were in Israel, in Tekoa, and we were at the Shabbos table, and we spent hours and hours after Shabbos, after the Shabbos meal, discussing this with our host and talking about all this Hasidus and these new insights and everything, and how we were so excited about discussing this over the Shabbos table, and it's just talk for hours and hours. We forgot we have to go to sleep. You have to wake up the next morning and get back to after Shabbos. But you can get carried away and stay up the whole Shabbos night discussing this over the table. And he said his son, who was a teenager.
We're talking about Usher Zeller.
Right. His son left the table and said, I guess, Usher said, well, this new generation, these millennials or this X generation or whatever, they don't find it as exciting as our generation, maybe because they already know all this information. It's already old school to them. They already know this is already revealed. This Torah Chadash Mitzvah takes it. They already understand it, and
they're born with it.
They're born with it, and for us,
which is maybe why a lot of teenagers don't want to just follow that paradigm of I'm allowed, I'm not allowed. They might, because they're born with the higher vibration, and it's us that has to tune in. It's the parents that have to tune in to our children so that we can learn from them.
Right, it was amazing. He left the Shabbos table probably, it's getting late, and we keep talking about him. He's heard all this stuff over from his father and knows all the shtick. But for us, it was so exciting to discuss this, and
because it's a whole other way of seeing it.
Right, and anyways.
So tshuva is a constant.
And also, talking about going to Israel and Mashiach, and somehow we think that for Mashiach to be here, all the Jews have to go into the land of Israel and be living in the land of Israel literally, and be taken on these flying carpets or something into the land of Israel or something. But no,
flying clouds.
Flying clouds.
Not carpets. That's in Aladdin.
But Israel, I think Eretz Yisrael is everywhere. It's where you make it. Wherever you are, you could create Eretz Yisrael in that place where you are.
It's really, Yisrael by definition is Yashar El, Yashar Kel. It means you are completely aligned in your thought, speech, and actions with your internal compass, with your internal will, with your soul. Not just your soul, but your Yechida. Because in your Yechida, there's no oppositional thoughts. Okay?
So we don't have to wait till all 20 million Jews, make it to Eretz Yisrael, and we're there for Mashiach to be here. Mashiach can be here now.
The world, by extension, is Eretz Yisrael. It extends to the entire world. Eretz Yisrael is not just that little piece of land. It says Me'ever Layardin. The other three cities that would be conquered, which is called Keni, Knizi, and Kadmoni, representing Ammon, Moab, and Edom, which includes America. That's part of Eretz Yisrael. Not for no reason the Rebbe came to America and he said America is nicht anders. America is no different because this is, otherwise the Rebbe would have gone to Eretz Yisrael. Why did he come here? Why did we go out into exile, into the outside world? Because it's meant to be all elevated to become Eretz Yisrael, and then everyone in the world becomes aligned and in tune with their internal compass, with who they truly are, which is divine, and to be aligned in thought, speech, and action with the divine internal will. And for a Jew, that incorporates the mitzvot, but the mitzvot on a higher level, not on a level of choosing it, not obligating to it,
not fixing, not something that needs to be fixed inside of me or corrected or changed or altered.
I think we can let go a little bit of the strictness so that we can embrace the joy of it more. We can enjoy the splendor and the beauty of it more, because I can appreciate strictness, but when the strictness takes away the joy and the splendor, then we don't really get the best out of it. We're kind of and then eventually there's like a death. It dies out. It's
got to come from within. It's got to be.
It's got to have life to it.
That come from within, that you really want to do these mitzvahs, and you choose to do it.
And as far as I'm concerned, if like I started doing a Chumash Telem and Tanya every day again, but like I have a day that I'm not so much wanting to do it today, so I don't do it. Nothing. It doesn't take away from me. It doesn't add to me. Maybe there's, I feel that you can't force yourself anymore. It has to come without doing it by force. And
Okay, we're at 51, almost 51 minutes.
So that should be enough.
That should be enough. Okay.
Okay, guys.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening.
And Shabbat, peace, shalom. Shabbat shalom, because it is every day is Shabbos. It's always Shabbos.
Every day is Shabbos in the time of Mashiach.
Okay.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Okay, so you want to end your stream and.